administrative stuff. So this is Tanya Bodell, the chair of the Alternative Energy Committee for the town of Cohasset. In accordance with Massachusetts law, we are holding an open meeting virtually with appropriate posting of the agenda 48 hours in advance. So we will begin. We have we're hoping to be very efficient. But why don't we start with the approval of the meeting minutes? I hope everybody had an opportunity to review those.
They're very well done.
They are well done.
They're
Martha's
very
doing
thorough.
a great job.
Yeah, who does that?
Martha is now doing that.
Oh my gosh, they're
Yeah, I think Debbie's helping her.
really thorough. I felt like I was okay reliving the meeting. Yes.
So if there's somebody who would, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of January 11th, 2023.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Chris. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Steve. All right, we have to do a roll call vote. So why don't we go around, say your name and how you vote on the meeting minute approval?
Chris Adleifson, aye.
Steve Winter, aye.
Tom Daly, I was absent. Can I vote?
No, you have to abstain. So you can say
Abstain.
Tom Daly, I abstain.
Done.
And Tanya Bodell, aye. Okay, the meeting minutes pass. Quick update, Montana, do you want to tell us about the annual report? And I think we can go through that just quickly and make an official assignment.
Yeah, so real briefly, all the committees and boards have just been asked to write a 1 to 2 paragraph summary of your accomplishments in 2023, which can range from an assortment of things, especially for you guys, between grants, projects, hosting, sorry, I'm just pulling Martha in, hosting individuals of topics, literally anything that you feel like you want to go into the annual report, go for it.
So, as you know, we just presented to the select board that gave an overview of what we did last year. I'm happy to convert that into 1 to 2 paragraphs, if everybody's okay with that. If anybody would like to assist or review, feel free to volunteer.
The deadline is February 23rd. So you guys have, Tanya has time, you guys have some time to figure out what you want, but honestly, what you presented to the select board would be perfect.
Great. And Martha, just so you know, for the notes, we started at 7:32 and the meeting minutes were a motion to approve was made by Chris Adleifson, seconded by Steve, and they were approved 3-0 with 1 abstention, which is Tom Daly. You're muted, so you can just say.
Thank you.
No problem. And now we've moved on to the 1 to 2 paragraphs for the annual meeting. I'm going to take the lead and basically turn the presentation of the select board into 2 paragraphs about our accomplishments, which I think are very impressive. Great. All right. And we have here to present to us Tom Callahan from the Zoning Bylaw Committee. And I think, Tom, you're going to focus on section 19 wind, but you're going to give us an update on how you see section 20 moving forward or not, based on what's already been approved. So welcome to the Alternative Energy Committee meeting.
All right, thank you all. Tom Callahan, Chair of the Zoning Bylaw Committee and the Planning Board. And let me share my screen that'll help you visualize stuff. So, our objective since the prior zoning bylaw working group and this committee is to reform the entire bylaw because of the organizational mess it had become. And we're moving, unfortunately, in my mind, working way too slowly. It was supposed to be a 3 town meeting cycle to have the whole thing done. This will be our 3rd town meeting, and I don't know, we won't have it all done. We do have some constraints we're operating at the moment with town council and the budget. So that's holding us up, particularly with Article 20. But what I put forward for the Springtown meeting is nine articles, which is a lot. And the select board at the moment is letting us run with it and see what we'll have ready for town meeting. But they also have prioritized some things, and the wind and solar articles would not be amongst the high priorities to go forward. So there's a possibility this won't get dealt with in this town meeting. And, you know, it's not going to change. There's still a lot of parts of the bylaw to do. So if we don't do 9 articles this time, we'll do 9 articles the next time. But there's people out there who don't think that everybody has the bandwidth for this stuff. But anyway, of the things that are being proposed, the first 2 articles are housekeeping and accomplishing a reorganization of the bylaw that was a goal. We have 22 articles in the zoning bylaw. A lot of stuff's been added on over the years, including wind and solar. And an objective has been to consolidate things, put similar topics into one article rather than have them spread out all over the place. It's to get definitions that are in the bylaws that are spread all over the place into one place, uses into one place, et cetera, et cetera. So what I want to be able to propose for the town meeting, the first step is just to complete the reorganization. And that would mean that Articles 19 and 20, as you can see here, would become sections of a new single article on alternative energy. And then for the future, if there's any other kinds of initiatives that might come forward, they can certainly, you know, on alternative energy, they could certainly be tacked on to that. So hopefully those articles will go forward. And if they do, it would just be moving the article itself would just create the consolidation, but it would just move the existing text of the articles as they are into a new organizational format.
So at this point, you're not looking to make major changes to?
No. So in the way I have these 9 articles organized, the reorganization to change the organizational structure and framework would be the first 2 articles. One of them is to do this, to consolidate the articles of the bylaw. The second one is to consolidate some districts, because we have a lot of districts we don't use, never have used, never will use. And again, to create more simplicity, the overall goal is some simplicity and user friendliness to it. So this would be at the beginning of the agenda for the spring, and it would just accomplish the reorganization with just the existing text of all of these different bylaws as is. And I want to just look.
So solar energy does
Where's my
not
cursor?
have
I'm
it.
sorry, I'm looking for my cursor. There it is. So the article in front would be alternate, other land use regulations and a lot of other environmental related stuff would be, rather than have these all as standalone articles, they'd be consolidated as sections of an overall topical article of other land uses. So it's simply a matter of organizational preference, and that's what that would do. Now,
Tom, where do the electric vehicle charging stations fall?
what vehicle charging stations?
The electric vehicle charging station.
If it's not in an existing bylaw, it hasn't been written.
You
Yeah,
talked about it at the
we-
town meeting last fall, though. I'm
Yeah,
a bit confused.
All right, well, Steve, let me just go through this in a logical sense in my own head, okay? This first step I'm talking to you is just about reorganizing the bylaw. No substantive changes, no textual changes to anything, just reorganizing. Now, beyond that, we have a number of articles, and I'll tell you that after this reorganization, we have to deal with the housing choice legislation. We are looking at a development impact bylaw. And we are looking at some changes to our dimensional regulations. And those are all, and changes to the parking bylaw. And those are all high priorities of the select board. Okay, and
Yeah.
particularly the Article 5 dimensional changes has multiple parts to it. There's multiple changes that would be proposed. So again, in this scale of priorities, and ultimately the select board will determine what gets on the warrant. We may not get to any of this stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. But be that as it may, if we did get that far, one of the articles near the end is to deal with the land alteration bylaw, and then the last two are to deal with 19 and 20. So the common objective of 19 and 20, and I will tell you, I'm the only one who's taken a crack at them. I mean, the Judge Cutler, when KP Law came on board in this project, they did a diagnostic, what they called it, of each article of the bylaw and pointed out textual errors and some places where there's inconsistencies with current state law, et cetera, but not a lot on substantive change. For both of these articles, I think they are incredibly long, incredibly complicated. They have definitions to themselves. And the idea was to make them simpler. And a common theme to both of them is to take out a lot of the material about application procedures, any technical specifications, and move them out of the bylaw and into regulations where they can be more easily amended to deal with changes in procedures, changes in industry standards and technical standards, rather than have to go to town meeting to have a bylaw change done. So in both 19 and 20, a lot of the existing material would be moved out into regulations.
Okay, but 20 doesn't exist.
Well, I'll get to where 20 is, but so before we confronted the budget issues after, around the end of the year with town council, after the November town meeting, town council's next priority was to be working on amendments to 19, 20, and 7. 7 is the parking one. I don't know where, so Judge Cutler did pass along her amendments to the Article 19. And it was a combination of her thoughts about it and my thoughts about it. And the part about large, right now our bylaw, Article 19 regulates just large turbines. And in substance, none of the provisions regarding that change. Again, some of the administrative and technical parts of the article would move out and move into regulations where they can be more easily adapted as circumstances change. But everything else in here about the large things there's one place where I have a question about needing a total height on a large turbine, with the blades turning and everything. But the substance of this and the text is the same as what exists today. It didn't change setbacks, didn't change height limits, didn't change anything. So it's just more of a consolidation of what has to be in a bylaw and taking out the things that don't have to be in a bylaw. But the other thing that I wanted to add, and the judge has written language to add, is what we would call accessory wind turbines, which means smaller ones that could be on an individual structure. And if you look at that yellow height, so this bylaw would add, this amendment would add that. It would be this subsection E. And I sent an email about, now it's almost a month ago, to the US Department of Energy. I guess they don't respond to just ordinary citizen emails. I have not heard a damn thing about it. But what I read from the literature, a turbine on a residential home usually generates between 5 and 20 kilowatts. And so, now how you scale that up to a commercial building or to a multifamily building, I don't know. And that's what I was going to ask them. But the regulation here would be intended to allow for turbines to be put on an individual building scale. And to set what those limits would be, if it's 5 to 20 kilowatts. You know, we have the large ones are 500, above 500 kilowatts. And then I imagine that what is left is there is a gray area between the individual building size ones, you know, let's say up to 50 kilowatts. I don't know if that's the right number, but between 50 and 500, I don't see any regulation. I don't know what those would be. It's not large, it's not small, it's somewhere in between, but we wouldn't be regulating those. We wouldn't be permitting those. We'd either be permitting the large scale that we do now, 500 kilowatts and above, and then also allowing for small individual building scale turbines. And what, you know, similar to, so back in the fall, just to recall about solar, that we had to add at the Attorney General's urging, and we had to add it into Article 4, which is the article on uses, we had to add provisions about individual solar installations on individual buildings. We permitted them in town, but we never had a regulation that specifically said you can have them. So we did that. So this is sort of the corresponding thing, is that, okay, to look at all types of alternative energy options, we should allow, particularly given the wind we have in New England, is we should allow individual scale wind turbines. And that is the substantive change to Article 19, is to add that capability. The only question that I have is, as you can see with some highlights, is just setting the right numbers. If for an individual residence, the state of the art is you're regulating it to the size of 5 to 20 kilowatts, fine. But then if you scale it up to a commercial building, or let's say, you know, on this 3A district we have to create for housing choice, let's say there's a multifamily building that goes up, you know, what size turbine serves that kind of building? You know? So that's where I need some technical help, is knowing what's the right number. But that's it of 19 in a nutshell, and I can elsewhere show you what are the provisions that moved out. But if you just compare the two, I mean, I didn't have time tonight to do a comparison, but the other stuff is that the application procedures, the decommissioning procedures, and the standards all would move out to regulations, because those technical requirements might need to change quickly, might need to change because the technology has changed, industry standards changed, the state of the art has changed, and it's more easily done changing by regulation than it is by.
So can you give us an example of what you pulled out? Because I'm just racking my brain.
Yeah, let me
trying to
just,
remember.
you know what, let me, hold on one second. I have another document. So this is an earlier version of something I wrote where wind and solar we're moving into a consolidated article. At the time, it was Article 9. It would now be Article 10. So changed the purposes, intent, and shortened it up. But what you would find, the definitions were taken out.
Sorry, did you pull that up? Because we're still looking at the other version. You have to,
I'm sorry, I got to stop sharing and do another
and then
share.
reshare it.
I'm sorry, I'm not technologically proficient. Screen share, where is it? Here it is. All right, so this is a much earlier version of this, and so Article 19 doesn't look like it does in what I just showed you. But let's go down to 20. So I wrote this before we did the change.
Wait, hold on. So sorry, Tom. I was looking for an example of the technicals.
I'm
Detail that
showing,
you pulled out.
yeah, I'm showing you here. You can see material that is crossed out and simplifying it. Now, again, this earlier version was written to allow for individual systems before we did what we did in the fall, before the judge got a hold of it. So that wouldn't be there. But if you go further down, definitions would be out. application and plan requirements, construction details. And then all of these at the end of that article would all go to regulations. Because they all deal with subject matters that the state of the art may change quickly, and then allow us to adapt to that change rather than waiting for, twice a year town meeting cycle.
Mhm. And the.
And that's a
as of
common,
right citing-
that's a common theme throughout our amendment of the bylaws. We're trying to move material that needs to change quickly or could need to change quickly out of the bylaw and make it more easily amendable by putting it in regulations and rules. The planning board will eventually, probably close to that town meeting, we will approve this compilation of all the land use regulations into one booklet. So each committee isn't dealing with their own little set of regulations. There'll be one central place that, an applicant or property owner can look and find all the relevant regulations relating to land use. So that's the goal.
Mhm. And the as of right citing that had been written in there, is that the Judge Cutler thought that the new language provided as of right citing that would meet the requirements of the Green Communities Act?
And that was regarding the individual systems.
No, the GMSP overlay district,
Yeah.
that was an
Well,
as of
this
right
is
citing required for Green
here's
Communities.
the thing. Here's the thing with Article 20 is that, so before this budget issue, I got the amendments to 19, but I haven't gotten the amendments to 20, and I don't know if I'm going to get them. And if I have to reinvent the wheel, I'd like to see what she's at least done to date, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Because this part you're seeing was all written by me, but almost over a year ago, so.
I know, but what I'm saying is, in order to be a part of the Green Communities, we had to have a as of right designated district.
Yeah,
And that's what that GMSP overlay district is.
yeah, and that wouldn't go anywhere, but one thought I had was expanding the ability to do a large solar array anywhere on 3A, as long as it's an acre in size.
Okay, but when you say it's not going anywhere, it's crossed out.
Well, it's that, again, that's an older version of it. It's going to survive because there's another place where we're doing the housing choice article and we're showing you what the overlay districts are. The Brown Mountain Solar District still survives. So
Okay, so the
again,
solar, so it's not just.
this is where I need the judges, what she's written. This was written again over a year ago, so we are putting in the language that we're trying to comply with the Green Communities Act, but this is where I need her input and her work product to date, because I don't know what she's done. But as far as the overlay district goes, it's limited to what, these three parcels. Question is, do we want to expand it? We don't have to, we can just keep everything the way it is. And if we do, and we just basically just sort of housekeeping on Article 20, and this becomes simple, and then, the simpler that 19 and 20 are, the easier it will be for me to sell everyone on let's do this at this town meeting and get it out of the way, because we still have other things to do. And we're taking on a new initiative with the help of MAPC on environmental stuff and climate related stuff, which will be a lot of new material. And, we're going to take that up either in the fall or next spring. So we still have some big topics to discuss. And I'd like to get the small low hanging fruit of the bylaw out of the way. And that's why this shouldn't be super complicated. On the wind thing, we need just help setting the right kilowatt limits of what we're going to regulate on the individual scale. The large scale turbine, the substance of what we have in the bylaw today aren't changing. And then the same with the solar. What we have in Article 20 now, in substance, can just stay the way it is. And really, the only issue for Article 20, now that we've dealt with the individual scale things last fall, is do we want to expand the ground mounted overlay district to other than those three properties, the landfill, and that's the question that we just have to answer yes or no. It may be completely impractical to expand it to 3A, but it's a thought. Yeah.
So we can say yes or no to things and we can decide what we want in or out. At town meeting, do we get to sort of like rewrite all these things if people don't like particular phrases, clauses and so
Well-
on? How does that work?
Well, I mean, the ultimate charge of writing bylaws, well, first it's for the bylaw committee we're doing the legwork, so we're doing the drafting and all that. The planning board is the only board that has the statutory authority to screen these before town meeting. They have a statutory, there's a process, and there's going to be vetting, with the planning board, ultimately the select board, advisory committee. I don't see these two articles need to go to the zoning board of appeals, but they go to you. But it's not like you're writing this and you have veto over it. If you say you don't want to go forward with them and leave the bylaws the way they are, we'll just leave them the way they are. But I think they're an organizational mess, in my own opinion. And they're way too long and way too complicated.
So it's an up or down vote at town meeting.
Yeah, it ultimately will be an up or down vote. It will be a both of these rewrites would be a single warrant article. And can anybody at town meeting ask and propose an amendment? Sure. Is anybody at town meeting going to care? I don't think so.
So Chris, our bite at the apple is through this process, with Tom giving us.
Yeah, I had to tell, because of the priorities they want, because of the shortness of time, because of the bandwidth of my bylaw committee, there's not a lot of time to go back and forth about this. I think this is really simple. If it's going to become complicated, we'll just postpone it to a future date. It's just not worth it. And we'll just reorganize the bylaw and take the existing texts and move them to where we want to move them. But I mean, I think these are fairly straightforward. It would help if I had the judge's work product on Article 20 to make it, to show you, and I'm going to try to resolve that tomorrow. But, 19 is pretty straightforward as to what it says. So, I do need some technical help, like I said, on what are the regulatory limits of, what are the regulatory limits for an individual scale wind turbine. And if you tell me you don't want to pursue individual scale wind turbines on individual buildings, well, then fine, then we don't do it. I think our alternative energy future has to look at any and all options, and we should at least give people the option to do them. Whether they actually do them is a whole other story. The state is hot to trot on solar and made us put in a provision in our bylaw about individual solar installations, but they're not as hot to trot on wind. They're not mandating that we do that for wind. I just think it's a good idea.
So
All
Tom,
right. So,
can I
go
just
ahead, Martha.
can I just clarify? So what you're saying is you think that these will go to town meeting, but because of priority and time, this may all be shelved until a later date?
These two articles would, yes, because there's a sentiment amongst many that town meeting somehow doesn't have the bandwidth to deal with this, although at one point in time, the town passed the zoning bylaw all at once in one town meeting, and in 1969 did a major rewrite of it all at once in one town meeting. We're spreading this out over now 3, possibly 4 or 5 things, and I think that's horrible. Personally, I think town has can as long as these things are explained to them properly and succinctly, they can handle all of this. But yes, we're going, the other articles that we have to do on substance and on the select board's priorities are going to involve more debate, more time at town meeting. You know, this could come at the end and everybody's just exhausted and just says, yeah, let's do it. But my thought is to get as much out of the, I am personally frustrated with the cycle that it's taken longer than it should. And, you know, it was always geared for 3 town meetings, but now it looks like it might be 5. And, you know, I'm just trying to get things that are simple out of the way.
Steve.
But there's no burning pressure, desire of anybody to amend these 2 bylaws. So again, it's just, you know, we had to do the solar thing, and the change we needed to make, we made. So we can.
Tom, I have a simple question for you. Why do you have a lower limit, 5 kilowatts, on the size of the small home turbines? I just did a Google search and I see that most of the home turbines, the small turbines, are less than 5 kilowatts.
And I read something in the literature that said they're between 5 and 20. So maybe 20 is the upper limit for a commercial building or a multifamily building. And
But I mean, why have any lower limit? Why does that matter? I understand an upper limit, but why a lower limit?
Okay, fine, but then you know, I can't keep switching back and forth between documents, but in the text of the proposed rewrite, it says for the large turbines, it says parentheses greater than 500 kilowatts. When we get to the accessory ones, we just put in parentheses less than 20 kilowatts. Maybe that's the right way to do it. We don't have to mention the number 5.
I would think so. Allow the homeowner to decide, you know, if he wants to put in a tiny little wind turbine, you know, more power to him.
That's fine. And if 5 is the number, I mean, again, I read literature that said in an individual building, it ranges between 5 and 20. Now, for a single family house, it's probably on the lower end at 5. 20 may be the limit for like a single commercial building or a single multifamily building. That's fine. We just want to set the right regulatory number so that we are encouraging commercial buildings and multifamily buildings, particularly if we're going to see future multifamily development, to be encouraged to install turbines if they make sense for their particular project. That's all. So you tell me what the number is. I read what I read in the literature, and
0.
I know, but there's
have no lower limit at all.
No, but there has to
20
be,
kilowatts be the upper limit, but no lower limit. Why
Alright,
restrict? Why have a lower limit?
if 20 is the correct upper limit, that's fine. We run with that number. But I asked, my email to DOE was specifically to ask that question. And again, I'm not going to get it, you know, like I said, they're not going to answer a question of an individual citizen of the country. So I'm not going to get an answer. So.
Yeah, well, you understand, I'm not questioning the upper limit of 20. I'm only questioning the lower limit as being unnecessary.
That's fine. That's very helpful. It makes it easier to write.
Yeah, I think it's a great observation, Steve.
That's fine. Then when, well, let me stop this share for a moment and go back to the other one. So keep having to whip back and forth. So here, you know, again, when we say we're regulating large turbines, we're saying those are greater than 500 kilowatts. Down here, when we get to the point where we're regulating accessory, what we're calling accessory turbines, we'll just put it in here, less than 22. Well, wrong symbol. Is that the right number? No, that's not. Yeah, that's right. Less than. Sorry, I'm tired. Long day. And then that's easy. And then and then there'll be a gray area that between 20 kilowatts and 500 kilowatts, they're essentially not going to be permitted. And I don't know what those would be, but if somebody is confident that 20 is sufficient to take in a single commercial building or a multifamily building, then 20 is the number. If it
I don't
should be-
think, I don't think we're confident of that. I think that number needs to be verified.
Well, that, again, then, again, I reached out to DOE and I can't get
Yeah.
an answer. I searched the literature to try to find it, but again, in a short period of time, quickly. So, anybody who has the time and wants to research that, that's fine, but.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help research it with some of the
Because,
experts on the committee.
yeah, here it is that it's right here that we're trying to regulate, is to allow these things to be on this type of structure. So it might just be like, for example, not a single building, but, let's say under housing choice, we do get a development and we get a development that's showing us, 3-story buildings, with, 100, 200 units, like Avalon, let's say it's Avalon. What is the correct regulatory limit to allow them to put on turbines? Somebody wants to help with that number, but then that makes this easy to write after that. The rest of it all works. Height limits. Again, I have some X's down there what the height limit should be, but those are just really arbitrary numbers that we can plug in. So, and then, this is the explanation. That, you see the little box that goes at the end of every warrant article. This is the explanation of what this is doing. Now, subject to getting whatever the judge's work product was on 20 would essentially be unchanged other than moving material out to regulations, unless the only substantive change I could think for 20 is, do you want to expand the areas in which a large-scale solar array could be installed? And my only thought on that is yes, on 3A, as long as it's an acre. But the property is an acre in size or better. I just don't know if confining this to the landfill is, makes sense for the future. That's all.
It does make sense. How would you draft the language for that to make it able to be expanded?
We would just have to amend the definition of the overlay district. That would be a fairly easy thing.
Well, easy to implement.
For example, on 3A, there's the old Cohasset Heights landfill. Do we want it forever? I mean, it's a different landfill. I don't know. I think it's capped. It's not. But it's. Do we want to forever prohibit a solar array at Cohasset Heights? I don't know.
But it doesn't prohibit. It just doesn't give as of right siting. Anybody who wants to do a solar energy array on the old landfill could come to the town and ask for approval.
All right. So is that your difference of your overlay district right now? Is it just is as of right on the town landfill?
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
And
we don't have to change anything with it. Then 20 even if I don't get the judge's work product, it's an easy rewrite. I just have to find the time to put it together so you can see it. You can physically see it.
And when you say rewrite, you mean just
And then
stripping out the.
somewhere on my computer, there is a draft of the regulations, and basically it's just taking the existing text and moving it from one place to another. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel and change substance. I don't have the time or the bandwidth to do all.
So Tom, let me ask you this. Given the uncertainty of budget priorities, Judge Cutler's work product, your time, the bandwidth of your committee, could we just suggest that you move it as is completely, and that we can deal with the cleanup of the technical and other things at a future date? Because there's some pretty major changes that you're suggesting.
No, with all due respect, I don't think I am. I think this is, and again, we deal with 9 articles now, or we deal with 9 articles later. There's a lot left to do in the bylaw, and my perspective is writing this and knowing bylaws is this is low-hanging fruit, and I'd like to get low-hanging fruit out of the way. Now, I may get squashed, and frankly, what I'd like to, what we have now with town council is that some money has been found. We in the bylaw committee are supposed to write the bylaw and send them the finished text for whatever editing town council thinks is appropriate. With respect to these two, one is drafted. I can draft the other, and I would like you to quarterback the final product, and then you just come to the bylaw committee, and it won't take the bylaw committee's bandwidth to be working on the nitty-gritty of the writing. I will have done that, and you will have helped me do it, and then just present it to them. Now, again, when we get to the warrant, the select board being the gatekeepers of the warrant, they say, sorry, we're not going to go forward with 9 articles. We're going to go forward with 6 or 5. And that's their call. But I mean, right now, I have the leeway from the select board to at least run these all to their logical conclusion and see how far we get.
Steve, you have your hand up?
Oh, yeah. Tom, you were wondering what the Department of Energy said about the small wind turbines. I just looked it up. The Department of Energy says that small turbines range in size from 20 watts to 100 kilowatts.
Okay.
So having an upper limit of 20 kilowatts with no lower limit sounds reasonable. I can't imagine a homeowner would want to put a larger than a 20 kilowatt turbine on their roof anyway. So
I can't imagine them getting the zoning.
Well, but no.
Well,
That's
again,
what this is about.
part of that article, part of that, hold on a second.
So Tom, that's what this conversation is about. Putting that in here gives them an as of right citing for up to X kilowatts, right? So
Right.
if it's in here, they
No,
can do
it doesn't. No, here. So accessory turbines, what I've written here is this. Choice.
Right.
I wouldn't do it as of right. Personally, I wouldn't do it as of right. I'd do it by special permit. And then when you go on, if it's attached to the building, it can be 3 feet above the highest point. And if it's on the ground on a pole or tower, small tower, the question is how far above the roof line would go. I would think it would be the same thing. You let it go 3 feet above the roof line.
Mhm.
But, again, so the change would include all of these dimensional things. It also says that if it's on a standalone tower, it has to be in the rear yard only. It has to have industry recommended clearances, and it has to be in full compliance with setbacks. So, the draft here is including all these things to provide the zoning where you could possibly put that. And again, I don't expect these things to spring up like mushrooms all of a sudden. I just think the option, as we go forward through the 21st century, the option should be there. That's all.
Now, and why rear yard? There are houses that rear yards butt up against each other. Is it just so that people on the street don't see them and you don't?
Yeah,
care?
it's because pure aesthetics. If somebody stuck a wind tower on their front lawn. We're talking here about, in that particular case of the rear yard thing, is a standalone tower or pole or however big.
The city of Boston refused to let us put one up in the historic district downtown on a residential install.
Yeah, and that this doesn't contain any of that, but if you make it a special permit process, you're dealing with the standard of, is it substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood? And there may, in an individual case, neighbors may crawl out of the woodwork and say, oh, this would be horrendous.
But if it meets
Then the planning board will have to
limits.
planning board will make a decision, and so be it.
Yeah, but if it meets the limitations that are laid out here, the planning board will approve it.
Not necessarily. You can be in compliance with zoning things, but under a special permit, you still have to meet the standard of it's not more substantially detrimental. That's why it's a special permit. If it was as of right, and I would not advocate for as of right,
But
then
it's-
I would get rid of this. I wouldn't do as of. I wouldn't do that at all. But, as of right, yeah, then then the planning board, well, nobody wouldn't even go to the planning board. The building inspector would have to approve it, but a special permit at least gives some scrutiny and give neighbors the right to be heard.
Steve,
That's how I would do it. But here's the thing. So, if we say, all right, now let's say that the accessory, on a smaller scale one is up to 100. An individual home is not going to put 100 kilowatt turbine on their house. And maybe we have to make a distinction that it's up to 20 kilowatts for a home and it's 20 to 100 for commercial building or multiple buildings, a multiple building campus type of thing. Maybe that's how we just describe it. So that way we take away the opportunity for an individual homeowner to go absolutely nuts and put this giant thing on their house or in their backyard.
yeah, I mean, I'll say 100 kilowatts would produce 20 times the amount of energy the average home needs.
You do a neighborhood.
Yeah, 20 homes.
Yeah, you could sell power to his neighbor.
That's what I just said. Yeah, you could do the whole neighborhood.
Become his
except
own,
you-
own power plant,
All right,
own
so,
microgrid.
I mean,
But the good news is some of these new ones are just little vertical things on the roof and they're not obtrusive at all.
If you look on Google, it's amazing the variety of small wind turbines. It's
Yeah.
incredible. All the shapes and sizes and
Well, I guess that's my concern because it does open up a whole Pandora's box that 10 years ago was not an issue because all this technology didn't exist. But now there's so many different versions and there will be going forward to give this, to open this up on a small scale, either as of right or special permit. I look at that seems to be a very major change to me that needs to be vetted with public discussion. I don't see that as a small change.
all right, but so the process we're also intending to engage in is to publicize all of these. We already, we conducted one forum a few weeks ago on housing choice, which is a significant piece of legislation affecting the town, and tried to publicize it, and we're going to publicize it some more, but as we're finishing up the actual text of it, but 7 people showed up. And we also intend to do public forums and other publicity pieces about whatever else we're proposing in front of the bylaw. So this isn't going to be just sprung on people, for the first time when we get to the planning board's statutory hearing. We'll publicize this and we'll get feedback, and maybe if people say, no, I don't want to see it, fine. But we're in the 21st century and need to deal with alternative energy and adopt it and embrace it. That's my argument for it, but that's just me. But we will publicize this.
And we are doing an education program where solar, and we could do a small scale wind as part of this to educate people on what that means and all the different technologies that are out there.
And if there isn't not enough time to properly vet it and get community feedback, again, these two articles are easily dropped off to the fall if they have to be, because there's no pressing need to do this right now. So the other things we're dealing with, we have a pressing need to get them done this spring. Again, I'd like to not see that because I'd like to get as much off the plate as possible. But again, until we get the public's feedback, we don't know how it's going to how it's going to fly. So,
All right, so is it possible, so you've identified for us, and I don't know if it's possible to get just a set of bullets for what you're looking for from us, which may be smaller than what we want to provide. You're looking for the technical numbers.
I'm looking for your input into how it reads, but understanding that, I mean, you're not charged with writing a bylaw. I mean, I no disrespect, but it's within your purview. But, you know, ultimately it's going to be other boards that have to regulate and deal with these things. Just your thoughts on it. And if there's something that I have written that is technically wrong or just logically wrong, so be it. You know, let me know that, because I'm not an expert on it. I can write a bylaw, but I don't know all the techie stuff about this. But what I need to do is just give you, a final text of both of it, and then also see what the regulations would look like. You know exactly what you're dealing with.
Mhm.
I'm not going
Steve.
anywhere tonight. I will start on it right now because I have no life, so I'm not going anywhere tonight.
What do you mean you have no life? This is your lifetime.
I had a life, but that life just blew up on me. So 6 years of a life is just blown up. So that's another story. So,
Well, that's a real teaser, Tom.
yeah, I know. It's just woe is me.
So Tom, are you going to tell us about the solar article?
Yeah, so the solar one, again, I want to see the judge's text because I don't want to reinvent the wheel. It saves me time. But really, since we dealt with the individual scale turbines, individual scale panels in the fall, as we had to, really the solar bylaw would read just the way it reads now. And it would just have the other stuff, the regulatory.
Does it say as of right with the solar
You
arrays?
tell me. Hold on, now I got to switch again to get to the existing text.
I mean, I hope it does. I hope we don't have
Well,
to.
I just wanted to, I have not changed the substance.
Steve, it's only as of right for solar on the landfill. And that was an as of right siting requirement for the green communities, and we made it as narrow as possible to be able to get the green communities status. And in recognition of the fact we were moving forward with the landfill.
Okay, but I'm
Blah,
talking
blah, blah,
about
blah,
for
blah, blah.
rooftop solar.
Steve, we dealt with that in the changes to Article 4 in the fall.
Yeah, I can't remember what it said there. Did it say as of right?
I don't know, but it is, the chair of the
It's not being
zoning board,
addressed right now.
the chair of the ZBA is trying
Okay.
to do the same thing, is to tweak things that we just passed when they haven't even been road tested yet.
All right, sorry for the
I'm not,
interruption.
yeah, no, it's just that we don't have the bandwidth to do it. I mean, I can probably pull it up.
Let's focus on section 20, which is what we wanted, what you're
Yeah,
focused on.
so 20 will end up being essentially what it says today with all the regulatory stuff pulled out. It would just be dealing with the large scale facilities, whatever your language says about whether it's as of right in the overlay district would still be there. So there really would be no substantive change to 20. It's just be.
And the pulled out stuff winds up in regulation.
Correct.
But this is, how can we tell what was pulled out? This is all redlined, added.
All right, hold on. Where is it? Again, I'll go over this again. I showed it earlier, but Application requirements pulled out, construction requirements pulled out, design, safety, monitoring, abandonment, and financial surety, all pulled out.
Okay, and if you go back up,
All of it would
I'm
be.
just
pulled out.
trying to look at the red line version that you have.
Yeah, but don't look at the red line version because this is a year old. It's different than what it was, but here
Okay,
is,
so when would you expect to be able to give us the red line
again,
version?
I have to get a definitive answer if town council has a draft that I can work from, because it would make it a hell of a lot easier for me. But
Okay,
this that you're seeing just needs to be tweaked because I haven't looked at it in years. And the cross out here, this overlay district is not meant to get rid of it. It was just moving it. It's here. It's still here.
okay, well, right, it's very confusing, the way this is set up for us to understand what's happening.
Well, you know what? Because we get some people say, well, give us a red line version so we know what you moved and what you took out. Well, yeah, because these articles are so incredibly ridiculously long, it gets cumbersome to do redlining. So
But let me ask you this, B2, that they're permitted as set forth here on any parcel located in the 3AC.
yeah, that's my added idea of letting them happen. It doesn't have to happen.
Okay, and why, like the municipal district, is that MUN?
Forget that. There's not going to be a municipal district. That was a thought of a year and a half
Okay.
ago.
So that's going
The
out.
3AC district is the proposal to consolidate all the commercial districts on 3A into one district, because we don't need light industry, we don't need transportation oriented, we don't need all that nonsense that we've added over the years.
And there's not going to be, I mean, even if there wasn't.
And if there has to be language here in this section, says, you know, the development of these things on the overlay district on these 3 parcels is as of right, and it's just easy to add the words, and then say in this next one, may be permitted by special permit at any other parcel located in 3A. That's one acre in size. I wouldn't say we'd want them in residential districts necessarily. Maybe we do.
I think the key thing is.
Impractical for them to be in the harbor in the village. So
I think, well, it's not, right? You could arguably put it on the marshland.
No. Subject
to wetland issues,
yeah,
but
you would never get permission to do that. But the question is, you want these sites to be of at least a certain size. And that's why the acre limit was put in, and that'll probably be a deterrent to their development, but in the right place, and it could happen.
I mean, I think
I don't think we can do it as of right.
We have to keep an as of right siting just to be safe.
Yeah, no, the Cedar Street site would continue to be as of right, so it just needs to. I just need to know to
Did
myself.
it used to say as of right, and it wasn't then changed?
I don't know. I'd have to look up above where the language used to be. I don't think it does say that one way or the other. This crossed out language is what is there now, and it doesn't say that. Unless it says it somewhere else. And this would have,
Okay.
I'd have to change it. 1, 2. Saying special permit and site plan for all. I mean, even I think the as of right should be. Well, the one on the landfill is built already, so it's kind of. I would, if we didn't have any of these large scale installations yet, I'd say it should at least have a site plan review, but that's all right. And I'll read through this again, but I don't know that the existing bylaw actually clearly says as of right anyway. It may say it, where it may say it is the table for Article 4, the use table. That's where it may say it. I'll have to double check.
Okay. All right. So,
what I want to give you is the tweaks we've discussed tonight about 19, and then to show you what the regulations would look like. And then also, I have to confirm with the judge if I'm going to get any text from her on 20. If not, I'll write 20. And again, also show you what the regulations would look like.
All right, so I think we need to either establish a subcommittee or direct liaison with you so that as you make progress, we can get immediate, we only meet once a month. So that creates a hindrance
that's
with us, the committee.
Completely unacceptable. I meet two committees twice a month each, so that's not fair.
We're very efficient and effective with once a month. So, I mean, if we need to meet more than once a month, we could do that. But I'd like to suggest to this committee that we, if we haven't already, establish a subcommittee to, or at least two people, to work directly with Tom and keep apprised of this and communicate with this committee on how things are going and what some of, are our concerns being heard, or are there changes being made? What does it look like now? So I think that's probably the most way for us to just, given where this is, which is still pretty much up in the air, a lot of moving parts, let's say that, and
Yeah, I mean,
priority.
I'm confident everything could be ready in a form to go forward. It's just, will the select board let us go forward, depending on, are they gonna let us go with 9 articles or 5 or 6? So, but it'll be ready. It'll be written and ready.
Yeah, and I would hope people would want to know what the alternative committee thinks about articles, what
Yeah,
used to be Article 19 and 20. And
when-
that we
when-
vote to approve
Yeah,
or
if
not.
we do a public forum on it, I would expect you to be there and help champion it to the 7 people that may show up.
Well, and we can do more than that, because if, with our education program, this is a perfect example of why it makes sense. As the town is considering these things, we have an education program in place for 2024, and I think showing examples of what the residential wind turbines look like, for example, having vendors come and showcase that.
Yeah,
That would be
that would be a
good for
huge
people.
help. Yeah, that would be a huge help, particularly, I think a lot of people probably have a stereotype in their mind of an ugly, windmill on a pole, when there's all kinds of things out there now that are actually wind turbines. And, it's really just to give people in town an option. It's not something else.
Mhm. Mhm. I know there are people in town who don't want any type of large wind, and that's why the Article 19 was written the way it was written. And I know that they might not, if asked, want to have their neighbor put one in their backyard for the same reasons, even if it's 1/100th of the size or 1/10 of the size.
Yeah, and that's why there'll be a special permit process to have opportunity to vet all that out. And give somebody who opposes it an avenue to challenge it further in the courts if they wish. That's why I would never do it as of right, since it's still, we're in a transition that people aren't used to these things yet.
Mhm.
I
Let
go
me ask you,
down,
Tom.
I go down to the village and I look at the spaghetti mix of telephone poles and wires all over, and 100 years ago, people probably went nuts about that stuff. And now it's just faded into the landscape and we don't notice it. And that's eventually going to happen for the rest of this, but we're in that same transition phase of 100 years ago where this is all brand new to people.
Mhm. And I think we'd asked you energy storage, and the judge thought that should not be addressed, and geothermal heating, HVAC systems, same thing, it's renewable
Yeah,
energy.
so in the reorganization of moving these all into a single alternative energy article, this would be 10.1 and 10.2. Well, in the future, you could have 10.3 geothermal, 10.4, whatever else. the structure will be flexible to just add things rather than just tacking on new articles. We got a grant from MAPC, and we just had a kickoff staff level meeting the other day that they're going to help us rewrite. They're going to review our floodplain protection district, water resource protection district bylaws, and look at any new climate initiatives. In the meantime, Montana's there's a program that's coming up where CZM has analyzed the cove, harbor, and what flooding could be there in the future. So new initiatives are going to be coming on that kind of stuff and climate change. So, and that perfect world target, that's fall 2024, but it's more likely spring 25. Spring 25 town meeting could be all kinds of new energy and climate related initiatives. And that might be a good time to target that kind of thing.
Well, and it might be a good time to target Article 19 and Article 22, right? If it's part of parcel of the whole climate response.
Yeah, and you could tweak, I don't know, whatever we put into place now, it's not like it'll never be changed, so.
Well, yes. Because the attitude is once it's in, let it run its course before you go to change it. So that's at least 5 to 10 years. So put it in, I mean, trust me, there are people on this committee who would love to change what got passed on the commercial siting of EV charging stations. So but I think we'll as a committee discuss this. I think at a minimum, we need to be keeping track of what's going on so there are no surprises and all of a sudden this shows up.
If the EV thing in Article 4 is a big issue for you, then let's I'll suggest that we deal with that in the fall.
Okay, well, let's.
I just don't want to, I'm getting enough flack. I don't want to add more to the plate already.
No, I hear you. And
I am pushing a very ambitious agenda, and I want to push it to the limit. And but adding a 10th warrant article would be pushing it too far.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, we'll take this up at the committee, but I think the
I'll get the material. I'm not sure I have everybody's email, but I'll get the materials to Tanya in Montana at least, and you can circulate it from there.
Yep. We've already circulated what you've showed us. So
okay.
Hopefully this was not the first time people were seeing it.
Yep. Okay. Good.
Okay. Thank you. Tom, thank you for coming and all you do for the town.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Tom.
Good night. Good night.
Anya, are you there?
What? You think she gave up?
She abandoned us.
She's taking down her wind turbine. And I just looked at the DOE thing, and it was 20 kW is pretty high.
That's good. That's good. I think.
There she is.
Sorry about that. Okay, let's try to go quickly through the rest of this. I think that was very useful. But before we move on, how do people feel we should address this? It's obviously a lot of moving parts. There may be a lot of effort that doesn't see the light of day until next round, but I think we should be involved and I think we should be aware.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about these articles. I'm afraid we're going to end up with a too restrictive zoning law, like Tom taking out as of right for the wind turbine at the last minute. Why?
Well, but this is what is frustrating about the process, right? There's a lot of movement and constant changes and things get done and they're not necessarily communicated. And I think that's where some of the issues arose with the last round. And I want to make sure nobody feels like we got stuck on the wrong side of things.
I would be happy to be on a subcommittee to monitor it and stay on top of it. If I've got some other people who know what they're doing.
Martha. You always take the hard stuff. I love that.
Yeah, Davin.
Hi, Barbara. Anybody else want
Hi,
to be
buddy.
on the committee to help monitor the zoning bylaws and keep track of things that are happening and what the status is? And bring it to this committee? Hi, Debbie.
Debbie, hi. I am so sorry for being late. I can't believe once again, I've done this twice, forgotten the time change. And so I was sitting here waiting to come on and I've been available. Anyway, I didn't hear the discussion, but I did definitely read, what he had. And I had a whole number of questions about them and, and basically whether he pulled some of these figures just out, where they came from, like a 3-foot height restriction. You probably discussed that.
No.
But I mean, that seems
No.
so arbitrary, a 3-foot height restriction. I mean, I was looking at home wind turbines, and just the very little basic one is like 44 inches. So it felt like there was a lot of things in the flicker, being a half hour a day. I mean, I feel like it needs much more justification than, and I'm not taking away anything from all that Tom's doing, but there were a lot of things in there that I feel like, need to be justified. The DBA levels, I felt like, where did that come from? So anyway, I have a lot of concerns about the wind turbine one. And then once again, as we talked about before, this that he brought up at the very end about the level 3 chargers only being at a related business. I think that needs to be brought up when Article 20 and when they come up. I think we need to amend whatever.
I think there's a lot of work to do this properly. And I don't think I think he wants to just push it through and then let people get used to it. And if it's horrendous, change it down the line. I don't feel comfortable with that for the reasons that you're expressing, Debbie. I also feel like we can take a very proactive approach with our education program to help educate the town on what these different types of technology looks like so they can make an informed vote, not out of fear of the unknown, but an informed vote about knowing what type of technology they might see in their neighbor's backyard.
To help Tom, I think one thing that might be useful and maybe wouldn't take a whole lot of time would be simply to find out what the most popular home turbines are and make sure that the zoning regulation will allow that. So as Debbie is saying, you can, if you have a height restriction that's too low, then nothing's going to work and nobody will be able to do it, and people will be frustrated who would like to have a wind turbine. So I think I did a quick search on Google. I saw a whole bunch of different designs for home wind turbines. I would say try to find out which ones are people actually putting up and make sure that they're allowed. Whatever the height is, whatever the dB decibel level is, and whatnot, make sure the requirements are okay to allow that.
And comparing to other towns that that do have this, like we did before, comparing and getting language and seeing sort of how they handled it. But I feel like there's a lot of things, like for example, Flickr, he had a half a mile distance. I mean, where did that, I feel like he may have a reason for that, or was that just arbitrary? I mean,
A lot of it's
Flickr's a
arbitrary.
big issue. It's a big issue, but a half a mile seems very excessive. I don't think that people are affected that far. So once again, I think, we have to look at more of the scientific aspects of this.
So Steve and Debbie are on the committee?
Oh, I feel a little overextended now. I can't keep up some of my current responsibilities in these areas, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
Debbie's focused on the
Debbie?
education
I
plan,
do,
the
it
program.
sounds like you've already done a lot of work on this. Why don't you
Well,
work?
no, when I read it today, these were all things that I just kept saying, where is the validation for this? Where, why 3 feet? I mean, nothing fits under 3 feet on a rooftop wind turbine. And, I think all these things, we don't want to hamstring ourselves that we aren't going to make this possible.
So one thing I appreciate with what he's trying to do is to put as much as he can into the rules and definitions, which can be more easily changed than the actual bylaw.
Okay.
So if we can maybe get him to put some of those specs into the definitions that could be changed as the technology changes, that would be good. But it would be great, Debbie, and Steve, if you wanna.
You know
I
what? I'd
think the
give
thing
a
that
stab at it. I'd give
the
a
thing that
stab.
concerns me about is the February 28th deadline to try to meet the spring meeting. And, it just seems to me that's awful fast with a lot of questions unanswered. We may be better off doing our homework and go for the fall meeting.
Well, I kept trying to push that.
I mean, well, he's open to that because he doesn't think they're going to get 10 through anyway.
Yeah, so I guess, do we want to take a vote to recommend to the zoning bylaw committee that they
Yes,
hold on 19 and 20?
yes, good idea.
And that will be our official position, just in recognition of how we can help, but not within that time frame.
Yeah, 3 weeks is nothing. We're not going to get it
There's
done
no
in 3
way.
weeks.
There's no
No.
way. And
I mean,
so,
you stand up in town meeting, you're going to need, rationale.
Need to have it
People are going
together.
to ask, where did the DPA count come from, or the Flickr thing? And that is a serious issue. I know in Situate, it's a serious issue, and they have to shut, the wind turbine off at certain times, but it doesn't go a half a mile either.
and we'll
So,
be asked, what does the Alternative Energy Committee feel about this? And we won't have an answer.
mm,
So, and that happened last time, although we did have an answer. So I guess I would entertain a motion that we recommend to the zoning bylaws that they punt on, they could move it around, but keep the language as it is and delay it until either the fall or when the other environmental changes are being made, so that this is part of the whole energy environmental
Mhm.
changes to the bylaw.
Yeah,
So I would
just make
entertain
the
that
motion
motion.
very simple. Just say delay any consideration of the alternative energy bylaw articles until the fall town meeting.
Content changes, you don't mind him moving it around into a new section, do you?
Well, we're going to be we're wordsmithing. So don't even say that. Just say we're going to defer bringing what was it? The
But
alternative
Steve, the problem is
energy.
he
by-
wants to restructure the bylaws.
Yeah.
So
Delay
he
consideration of it
wants
until the fall town meeting.
But he wants to move it. So I think there's a difference between how he structures the bylaws and where it shows up and how it's numbered versus changes to the text.
right. Can you reserve a spot there? Reserve a spot for content to come later?
I think he wants to put something where our stuff is.
No. He wants to move the stuff that's there now into a new
I know,
section.
but I think he wants to
Right.
put other stuff where our stuff is after he moves our stuff.
He
Oh,
does, and he wants to
That-
take stuff out. It's very
He wants to
complicated.
kind of recodify it
Right.
without changing the substance.
that,
Well, we're changing the substance.
There must be a
So-
way to make it like a placeholder for that, though.
No, I think he can just move it.
Yeah.
If he wanted to, he could just move it and not touch it.
Lock,
Don't
stock,
take
and
anything
barrel.
out. Don't
Hmm.
change definitions. Don't just move it.
Yeah.
Renumber it, move it, but don't change the text.
Right.
Because we have some serious concerns about things that are in there that suddenly showed up as being struck. And we have other concerns about, not having the time to be able to look at what's being taken out and moved into regulations. And we have some serious concerns about what has been proposed to be added in.
Right.
Okay, so back to the motion. Steve said, make it very simple, but his motion would prevent moving it or renumbering it. Do we want to go that far, or do we just want to say a motion to defer any changes to the language that's currently in section 19 and 20 until a future date?
I agree. I like that.
That sounds good.
So I would second that.
Okay,
So say that again. We're going to move to,
recommend no changes to the text of section 19 of the current section 19 and 20.
but allow them to be moved to Article 10
Sure,
and reorganized.
they can be
Okay.
reorganized, but no changes to the text.
It's
Reorganized.
good.
Yeah, okay.
So we have a motion, we have a second. We have to, because we're virtual, we have to do a roll call vote. So I guess it's my motion and Debbie's second of the motion. Any discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote. Say your name and how you vote.
Steve Winter, aye.
Tom Daly, aye.
Debbie.
Barbara,
Cook,
Barbara Russell, aye.
Martha again, Jimmy, I.
Tanya Bodell, aye.
Chris Howlifts and I.
Great, thanks, Chris. And then I think we need to establish an official subcommittee, so it's not just poor Martha on this. And I like the way that we did it last time, and I think, Debbie, you have a lot to add, but I think you could take charge of the educational component, and maybe we move up to the front the whole residential wind turbine, which isn't even one of our topics.
That's totally, I mean, nothing's cast in stone.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, but I think this sort of reiterates the importance of the education program and is squarely in our mission to educate the town on these issues as it makes decisions. Okay, so it passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're gonna speed through this because we just are, and I know I keep saying that. Okay, update on presentation to select board and approval. So we presented to the select board. We circulated the presentation. I hope you got a chance to look at it. I think it was very impressive. We've brought in $500,000 last year, and we're now above $2.1 million in benefits to the town from initiatives that we've been working on. We asked for approval to pursue our 2024 initiatives. They basically approved the proposal for the education program. They approved the proposal for the survey subject to Jack Creighton having the opportunity to make edits and changes to the text.
That's
We've
for what?
already sent- I'm sorry,
That was for what? Jack Creighton's going to amend what?
the survey,
Survey.
proposed climate action plan.
But is he
survey.
going to communicate directly with us or what?
I sent an email and copied a limited set of members of this committee who are focused on that survey, asking him for his comments. And I also copied Jeannie Dippold. So that answer is yes, he's supposed to communicate with us.
It's been what, about a week now, Tanya?
I think that's a week since he raised the issue, and I sent an email, I think yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll ping him again and then, keep copying Jeannie. So if he doesn't respond, we'll just move forward.
right.
Okay. But it was noted that the survey has to abide by timing associated with other surveys that are going out. So there are some things we don't control, as we know, at the town staff level. So it's just important for us to have the buy-in of the select board so they can put the pressure on and to hasten things along. But we did get approval for the education program. We got approval for the survey. We got approval for pursuing solar credits, the solar energy, microgrid equipment at the schools, and the electricity school bus. Everything we asked for, we got.
Yay.
There
Well, you
no
were very
concerns.
prepared. So Tanya, how, as far as allowing us to release the survey, I mean, how are we going to know when we're clear to go?
Well, I think we need to follow up with Jack. So the members of the committee, if you want to follow up with Jack, my email, I think I copied Debbie, you and Barbara.
Yep.
If you guys want to follow up with him, call him, document how often you're reaching out to him. And
Okay.
Jack hopefully will just say, yeah, I've reviewed it. It looks good. Go. And then we'll
Yeah, but
confirm
as you
that.
said, I think the town hall survey is going to take precedence, right? So we're going to have to wait.
Well,
But
that's
then I
where
don't know whether
Montana
they're
helps
going to want
us.
us to wait a month after, or, you
I don't
know, I
know.
mean,
That's what the committee needs to shepherd along with Montana's help.
okay. So Montana, you'll work with me on that? About, would that be okay? Is that
Yeah,
what you're?
I mean, on those emails that you send to Jack, you can CC me, so I'm up to date and I know what's going on. And I will help you guys take action when he gives you the go ahead.
No, but then we know about the town hall survey. So we're also going to need permission to release it at some point. I don't know, you know, I mean, as Tanya said, they don't want them going out at the same time. And whether we have to wait a month, I assume the town hall questionnaire will go ahead of ours. So I
This is
guess what I'm asking,
coordination, and that's coordination, and we don't know the facts right now. So that was just mentioned by Jeannie. So this is coordination that Montana is going to do with the town, and that the subcommittee is going to do with Montana.
okay.
I'm flying blind here. What is the survey that the town's going to do?
The town has some survey. I don't know what it's about.
It's
the
about
town
town hall.
Oh, okay. Because Stroll Magazine gave us, they'll put the QR code and just give a little piece about, please fill out the survey. But the deadline is March 5th, and that sounds like it's going to be difficult to achieve. Is that correct?
I don't know if it is or not. I think this
Okay.
subcommittee needs to work with Montana, who needs to work with the town. And if we
Okay.
have an opportunity to get it into a magazine by March 5th, maybe we move to the front of the line.
Well, it doesn't get published until April 1st, but the deadline to get it in is March 5th.
Okay, but these are facts that
Yeah.
the town needs to know so they
Right.
can make an informed decision.
I just found that out today, and I was going to bring it
Perfect.
tonight.
It's perfect.
Okay.
But
Okay.
this is, again, I think the subcommittee, I feel very confident that the subcommittee can get this done.
Well, we can if they stop throwing roadblocks in our way. It's just like, you know, geez, let us go. But, you know, I hear it. There's a lot of stuff around the town hall, and that was not anything we had planned on. So
Right. And we don't know where that is in the process. So maybe we can just hustle bustle and get to the front. That would be my hope.
okay.
Okay, great.
So I'll work with you, Montana, on that, and Barbara, and yeah. And
Okay,
Mark.
electric school bus, just quick update on that. It is in Boston, and I believe that the charging stations have been energized or at least connected. Maybe not energized yet, but we continue to get closer and closer every week. So we're making progress on the electric school bus.
And where do we end up installing the the charger?
The charger is like the level 3+ charger, and that's installed at Stasco's property,
Stasco's property over on,
3A,
where the school buses are parked. Okay.
where the school buses are parked.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to, I have 2 pictures of that were taken yesterday. If anybody wants to see, let me just pull this up quickly because it's fun and it'll be recorded for posterity. Share screen, hold on.
Montana.
Okay. So these are the 3 transformers that have been put in. And there's our charger. And here's the bucket truck. And there used to be a coiled up wire, and it's now no longer coiled up. We think it's connected.
Wow.
So very exciting.
Great.
That's super exciting that that got done.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's almost like a miracle. It's awesome. Congratulations.
Oh, congratulations to everybody. And then solar energy credits. What's the status, Montana, of the legal review?
Yeah, so it's still being reviewed, but it's still in the works. We did get an email update from, I got an email from, I want to say Scott this afternoon. Oh, sorry. Never mind. That was landfill solar. But it's still in review. I asked Michelle recently, and that's the latest update, but it's still in the works.
Okay, great. And then I know we had talked about credits, and you had sent me, and I never got a chance to review. Has that deadline come and gone?
It's come and gone, but it clearly was not pressing because I told Michelle, I mean, I think come next year, if accounts change or we increase in a certain area, we can change it, but it clearly was not pressing enough to change. So it's okay.
Okay,
Don't worry
well,
about
I'll
it.
look at it and just make sure we're not losing anything. And hopefully I'm pretty sure that's the case. Okay, anything else on our 2024 initiatives?
So in relation to the educational seminars, I know Debbie was asking me about hosting and just timing and all of that. So I did speak with Michelle. And when you guys do decide to set these dates for the educational seminars, I do have to be present since it's going to be an AEC hosted event. Because I have to start the technology, and just because you need a town liaison there, she can find the specific law for you, but she did confirm this with me, and I don't have the capacity, neither does anyone else, to have them hosted outside of what currently is AEC. Like if you want to host them as you presented to the select board right before your normal AEC meetings and stop and then start your AEC meetings, we can absolutely do that. Option B is they are hiring a new communications director. They don't have a solidified candidate yet, but it is in the process. So if you want to do it on a different date, a different time in person, you can wait for this person to be hired and they can host that for you.
So from a separate, so what you just told me is, as a committee, we are only allowed to have one meeting a month?
No, so for like the educational seminars, when you host these, whenever you set those dates, if it's going to be me as your town liaison and you want to do them sooner rather than later, you can only do them like right before AEC meetings, like right before, as example, today. If you do want to hold off a little bit longer, which I don't have a solidified time, they are hiring a communications director to take Justin's place that could host the meetings in person or a different time of the month for you.
Okay, so what if we did basically had started our meetings at 6:30 for an educational component from 6:30 to 7:30, and then did our normal meeting from 7:30 on?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay, so that's something we could do immediately.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you for that feedback. Tom Daly in Montana and I had a conversation with the head of school facilities about the replacement of the school roofs. They're looking at replacing the Osgood school roof in next year, and 2 years later, the Deer Hill roof, and 2 years after that, the middle school, high school roof. And the head of the facilities committee is very excited to have us want to liaise with them. So I think at our next meeting, we'll talk about how we do that. Do we want to create a school roof solar or school microgrid subcommittee that interacts with the facilities committee and the school committee? Or do we want to just to have liaisons? I think let's talk about that at our next meeting, but it's very exciting that we're communicating this early on.
He was really excited.
He's totally pro solar. It's great. And the committee, the school committee is very much now because of the communication that we've been doing with them for the past 2 years. And by the way, most of that $2 million that we've brought to the town has gone to the schools. So we'll make a presentation to the school committee and point that out to them, including $500,000 last year. I think the communications we've been having with the school committee are paying off, and they immediately think about opportunities for solar and electricity cost savings because of those communications. So I think we have a very good working relationship with them, even though the liaison from the school committee never bothers to attend our meetings. He feels he knows what's going on.
How does he stay updated there, Tanya?
I'm sorry, Tanya. What's the name of our liaison with the school committee? What's his name?
That would be Mr. Edwin Carr.
Evan Carr. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Anything else on these 2024 initiatives? All right, upcoming events. Can we just talk through these quickly? So Springtown meeting, I think we've probably heard the major thing that we'd be asked to comment on, which we've now voted to defer. But if there's anything else we want to bring it to the Springtown meeting, I think the deadline is February 28th. So we should decide like now if there's anything we need to bring. I think, for example, leasing the school roofs, that should wait until next spring meeting because we're not going to be able to get any solar on. And I think it'd be just a better vote if the town knows that the roofs are being replaced. Health fair.
Hi, is that for me?
I think so.
Okay, so we just got an invitation, you know, remember last year we were gonna do the health fair? And we were doing a table and remember, Steve, it was gonna be, we were really gonna push the aggregation. And anyway, the health fair is a big deal. Lots and lots of people go to it, and we can have a table. Last year we were offered one for free. It's March 24th. It was at Deer Hill last year. Question is whether we want to have a table and what we would put on that table, what we would feature. We do have a lot of things. In the past, you know, Brianna helped us design things. I don't know, Montana, if you are able to, you know, help with things or whether we're on our own or, you know, or what we want to do about it. If we want to have a presence there. I mean, they say that over 1,000 people come. You know, I don't know. We're all set to go. And I remember standing in there and then getting the word the day before that, you know, about aggregation, and we just completely pulled the plug. So,
Well, I think our focus last year was on community aggregation, but I think we have a message here to help prime the vote for leasing the school roofs and letting people know about the electric school bus, letting people know about the $2.1 million we brought primarily for the benefit of the schools. So I think the health fair, we should seriously consider just using it as a marketing tool and letting people know about what we've been doing for the schools.
right. Well, and we could, you know, I mean, if we get the go ahead by then, we can also have, you know, info obviously about the survey and the educational series and, you know, that kind of thing too. So.
Okay.
Park the electric school bus outside.
Yeah, actually, that'd be cool. Have people use the electric school bus, let people go on in and check it out.
Oh,
Maybe go in the circle, go around town. Maybe that's how we roll it out. That's a
Yeah,
great
there you
idea.
go.
that's a really cool idea.
Great
Absolutely.
idea.
That's a really cool idea. Okay,
Okay,
so
what date is that?
The 24th.
March 24th. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Ray about getting their school bus drivers trained before then. And I'll talk to the school committee about their support of using that date. And Montana, if you can talk to Chris and Michelle about using that date in that event as the green ribbon cutting ceremony for the electric school bus.
Okay. Yeah, and in terms of what I can do, I'm happy to like help make posters and be on the creative end of helping you promote. I can't be present just because I have to be at my other job, but I'm happy to like make the creative posters and like get advertisements for you guys.
That'd be great.
So who can work there? Who?
Hey, and by the way, we should also have the survey.
Yeah,
QR
we can
code.
make a QR code and have it like pasted on your table. I did that last year with my composting survey and I got like 100 people to take it there.
Let's do that. And let's
I'd
have
be
like,
glad to man a table if you wish.
Okay.
I will too. I'm happy to,
Okay.
as long
All
as Deb and Martha go with me.
right. Yeah, I'll be there.
All right, just asking.
Okay. Okay.
I
So
think
I
everybody on
I
the
will
committee
fill
should
out
take some
the
time.
form. I'll fill that out tomorrow. That Ted sent and book us a table. And hopefully it's for free again. But if it's not, well, I'll spring for the money or something. But anyway, yeah, okay. So we'll pull that off.
On upcoming
great.
events, so I guess there's no EcoFest this year. Is that right? Or is there going to be a?
I think there's going to be an EcoFest. I'm no longer a part of the committee. I don't know if Debbie, I feel
I
like
haven't
you were
heard
kind of
one
involved.
word. I have not
Yeah, I
heard.
haven't either.
I mean, if they're going to do it, it's awful late.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I haven't heard anything, so I want to assume no right now because last year we started talking about design like back in late December, early January. So
Yeah, it's too late, I think.
Well, I think that makes our education program all that much more important.
And what about Earth Day? Is there any special thing going besides the trash collection? Is there anything else going on Earth Day?
It's a Saturday. We should make hay. We should see if we can do something.
is conservation the one who usually does the trash day? Because I know
Open space.
open space. Okay, sorry, yeah, I got them confused. Someone reached out to me asking about compost on Earth Day, so they might be expanding the trash pickup to a slightly bigger event. But I do know open space is doing something, so yeah.
Another opportunity to showcase our school bus.
Fill it up with trash.
No, take the workers,
Oh, that's terrible.
deposit the workers.
Actually, that's
Fill it
great.
up with trash.
That'd be great.
Some.
Oh.
All right. Anything else on upcoming events? Montana, anything compelling or
In terms of events,
no,
besides
or
oh,
active? I'm off of events right
grants.
now.
Yeah. Grants. So as you guys know, we got accepted for the Green Communities. We're filling out all the contracting paperwork right now and just doing the initial steps, but everything is smooth going. I'm supposed to attend a cohort meeting like in the next 3 weeks. I haven't got a solidified date from the state yet, but once that happens, I'll let you guys know and we'll discuss it at the next meeting what we talked about. In terms of other grants, nothing right now. MVP planning action for the CAP plan still stands as the same way we left it. Tanya and Barbara, when you guys all attended last. Then going on to filing, storage, and ensuring institutional memory. So per Martha and I's conversation of understanding that not everyone may have access to SharePoint, we're moving to a Dropbox, which is more universal. Sorry, my boyfriend's like cooking dinner outside, so I'm trapped in here with the cats, and so that's why I'm surrounded. The computer might be moving. But I created a Dropbox and I'm just combing through what Ginny put on the USB and I'm categorizing what Martha sent me. So we talked about doing past grants that like we were denied from, so we have that content, accepted grants, um educational articles that maybe you guys have passed around regarding the educational programs, just items for people to read, the EV chargers, the electric vehicles, the electric bus, microgrids. I'm just going through right now. We're trying to rename stuff, give them proper titles and put them in the correct spaces. And then I will send that out to all of you. But you guys will have I believe you'll have the ability to add stuff on your own too. But it'll just be exclusive to like AEC members, not to the public. So it'll just be us plus Michelle.
Okay, two things on that, Montana, for me. Could you send me a link and I can upload the last 5 years of stuff
Yes.
that I have?
Absolutely.
And would it make sense to get like, and I think I tried this before and they said no, but to get a AEC at cohassetma.org, and that just becomes a repository for us.
Like your own URL.
Like a generic that we copy all communications on.
A cloud
Okay.
site.
Email.
Oh, sorry. I see. Thank you for asking that question because I also was wondering.
You were thinking the same
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay. I will do my best on that part. If not me, then it will be whoever gets hired for the communications director. That just, I know I'm supposed to be technologically advanced as a young person, but that may be above my head.
Good. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anything else?
The website updates, I did all of those a few weeks ago. I haven't heard anything from the town clerk about the individual who already applied for the volunteer position. I can check with the town clerk tomorrow. They've also been super busy with getting out early like voting by mail. So I can talk to them tomorrow. They just finished up today. But if everyone or anyone has checked out the AEC website recently and you have edits or you want us to add things, just let me know. I took away a few things per Tanya's request too.
Great. Thanks. Data report. We made another $2,000 in savings from the, not a lot, but from the solar energy array last month. So we're now at $424,000 in savings. And I think Chris might not be on anymore for the EV chargers. So we'll report on that next time.
No, I'm here. Sorry, I had my mute on. Do you want a quick summary of the data?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, okay. So unique drivers, no, the trend continues downward. In September, we had 122, October 107, and November, December, mid-90s, and now we're at 80. So that's a decline from September of about a third, 34%. In terms of sessions, in September, we had 449. And in January, which is basically the same as December, we had 286, and that's a decline of about 36%, so about a third. So drivers are down, sessions are down. Another interesting stat is folks are sitting in this slot or hooked up for 5.5 hours, only which of 2 hours and 20 minutes they're charging. So people are leaving. There's just Steve's little hot button, those sitting there idle for a while. And then I think this is energy usage is not come down from December. So while in September was 5.6 megawatts, January was 4, a little over 4. That is a little less of a decline, 27%. But interesting and sort of consistent with November and December, where the unique drivers in the sessions are down a bit from November. So I think that what we discussed last month continues. The bottom line.
Great.
And I've been finding that more non-EVs are being parked in the EV spots. I've been handing out my leaflets, sticking my leaflets on their windshields, but
Yeah, we've gotten a complaint about that from the library.
Yeah, the
Because-
director of the library is really upset about that. Because the parking lot is so jam-packed, especially in the winter, that there's nowhere for people to park. And so she said that there was an agreement that people could park there if the lot was full. But I don't know, Tanya, were you gonna talk about that and decide what to do?
Yeah, I mean, she says there was an agreement at the library that if they gave up the spots, they still could be used for regular parkers. So Steve, maybe we should not put notes on those cars.
okay. I would point out that there are scads of empty parking spots on the other side of the building. So it's no big deal. People have to walk another, a couple dozen steps. That's it.
You mean at the bottom of the hill?
No, around on the playground side of the building,
Martha, is she upset that her patrons have notes left on their cars? Is that?
Yes.
Oh, I've been putting notes on people's car. Yes.
And they're signed by the AEC committee. So she was really kind. She got our meetings uploaded onto the YouTube channel so that I could actually do the action items. So she was super helpful, but then she asked me to address it at the meeting. She said that people are very upset about it and they're coming in and complaining. And yeah, I just don't think we want people upset at the AEC committee. We don't want any bad PR. I don't know. I don't know how you all feel about it.
Okay, Steve, your days are over.
How about we just say just those? Keep it up everywhere else, but just those.
Okay, I'll refrain from. My note is very polite, by the way. I just said that these charging stations these parking spots are for. No, I say you are parked in a spot reserved for electric vehicle charging. These chargers have been provided at no cost to our town by the Cohasset Alternative Energy Committee. Thank you for your consideration. That's
Maybe
what my note says.
maybe sign it, Steve.
I don't
Well,
sign
Steve-
I don't sign it at all. I just say these charging stations are provided at no cost to the town by the Cohasset Alternative Energy Committee. Thank you
That's
for your
not to be
consideration.
That's not to be confused with the energy is no longer free, right?
And
No, the
town
charging
maintains.
stations have been provided at no cost to the town. That's what I
Yeah.
said.
It's a good thing you don't have a tow truck. But
last time I went there to charge, there were no spots available. They were all taken up by non-EV, cars. And there were other spots in the parking lot that were empty. Of course, maybe they weren't, nobody was parked there when, we made this, no spots available when they pulled in, but there were plenty of spots there when I pulled in, but none in the EV area. So. Well, in any event, it's not a issue for EV. People want to charge their EV because they can go around the other side of the building too. Just like anybody using the library, there's, dozens of parking spots on the other side of the building.
That was probably our mistake. We probably should have put the chargers over there because people would have been motivated to walk when they got free energy.
Yeah.
There are some there.
There are 4 on there's 4 on the playground side and 4
Oh,
on
there are. Oh, great.
the other side. There's 8 altogether.
Well, are the ones on the playground side, Steve, sort of taken up by non-EVs as well?
Not so much. When I was there last time this week, a couple days ago, all 4 spots on the library side were taken up by non-EV cars. And none of the 4 EV slots on the playground side were being used at all.
All right. So you just have to walk a little longer.
No. Yeah, I know it's no inconvenience to me, but I was just looking ahead to the time when these chargers are in greater demand. People should get in the habit of treating them like they would treat the handicap spots. It's the same sort of thing.
Well, let's put a pause on the library ones because it does sound like there was an agreement in place. Okay, any matters?
Can I ask one question on
Mhm.
the charger thing? Was there any more word about the level 3 offer? I know we were supposed to, come up, Steve and I were supposed to come up with some questions about it, but I have no idea actually what even the proposal is. Or Montana, do you know about that proposal where they came to us and said for $10,000, I think it was, that they were wanted to have locations for a level 3?
Yeah, so it's still the same as last month. I asked Michelle for a breakdown just because I too am curious. But that's all I have for now. New town hall has been taking up a lot of time in the old town hall, so I've just been kind of putting that on pause. Please, if you can create those questions, please send them to me because I also don't know any more questions besides just asking for the breakdown. But I have asked her for them, so hopefully we'll get them over before the next meeting. But that's all I have right now.
I did hear something interesting today about level 3 chargers. Apparently, there's a new kind of charger just came out this year. It's a DC charger that can charge us faster than the normal AC level 3 chargers. And apparently, they're I don't know, they're easier to set up and cheaper. I don't know if anybody knows anything about them.
Well, that's why I kept saying the technology is changing so much that the town should not really be in the business, I don't think, of owning or trying to maintain or anything these chargers. I think that a company should lease the space from the town or something.
Yeah,
that's-
I agree with you, Deb. Has anyone done research as to why a town with the characteristics of Cohasset would have public charging stations at the curb? I mean, I imagine that the stores do because they think, well, maybe people will come from out of town and they'll need to charge up. But a town such as Cohasset, it seems puzzling to me as to why we would have charging stations.
Because they were free.
Right, but what would be our motivation? Is it to maybe stimulate people to go green and get an EV or
Yeah, exactly. That was
curiosity?
That's
it.
Well, I
Because-
mean, back when we did it, these are the level 2, but I guess my point of level 3, and that's part of the question is, whether who this company is and whether they would actually own them and maintain them and lease from the town. Because it's something I think the town should be really careful about, because just like Steve said, technology's changing so fast. And I think everybody's settling on the Tesla type technology as far as the nozzle and stuff, but the charger themselves are going to be very different.
Yeah, and a lot of, Deb, I was on the board of an EV charging station company until last year. They would not install chargers in public places because of vandalism issues. I mean, I imagine we don't have those issues in Cohasset, at least I hope we don't. But many large charging station companies have no interest in installing them unless the city guarantees, it insures them somehow, because it's out there. It's an expensive asset sitting on the curb.
I will say I'm like 99% positive that they're not going to be Tesla chargers. I think they're going to stick with ChargePoint, the ones that we currently have.
Yeah, and it's easy to modify it because you just have the little connector.
Yeah, the connector. That's what I'm saying, is that, something that's compatible with, they're using the not, what do I want to call it? The connector, the nozzle is the thing they're going to standardize so that, everybody can use that.
But
Any-
the question is, go ahead, I'm sorry. I mean, the question still is why in a town like Cohasset, where everybody has their own charger in their garage. So the only reason you would do that again is for publicity or, in the odd event that someone's coming to town I can see it if we're right on Route 3, right? But I just scratched my head on that one. Why in the world would we have charging stations?
So I think that's a good question for going forward. I think that's your question, right? Not why do we have them, but why would we going forward
Yeah, exactly.
continue to invest? So I think let's put that on the agenda for the next meeting with the data that we have collected from the ones we have that we got for basically free, 10% of the cost. Okay, any matters not reasonably known in advance? All right, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Who did
Aye.
it first?
Aye.
Wait, when I say I entertain a motion,
Aye.
that's not me giving the motion.
Oh.
So who made the motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Tom.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Aye.